How do you win the game? So let's answer this question. How do you win the game? So first we have to understand what is the game, and we have to understand how to actually win it. But to preface, I want to start this episode off by letting you guys know that I did find a better location to record than yesterday. And I'm actually in the middle of a golf course under trees, kind of in an isolated area, and it's right next to the highway. So I'm unsure if you guys will be able to hear the highway. I doubt it, but I'm just saying sorry for that. And also, I'm unsure if you guys will be able to hear the wind. Right now, there's wind blowing. So sorry if you do hear that as well. I'll do my best to kind of remove all of that, but this is the best I can do right now. But I wanted to talk about winning the game. So first things off, let's start with what is the game. So the game is the game of life. We're all playing a game right now. We are born into this world and we're just thrown into this game. Now, most people actually are fully immersed in the game and they're just playing out the roles like how non-playable characters in video games would play. Like they're just doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. They're doing exactly what they're told to do, exactly what they're programmed to do. And I don't have a full grasp on this picture of the game, but I do have an understanding because I first started learning about this game in a book called Unscripted by MJ DeMarco, and it basically exposes how like the financial system and how most people are kind of enslaved by it. But what this game actually is you can actually control it and you can actually be the master of your own fate. You can be the king of the financial system. Now, fast forward a few months, I picked up this book called Reality Transurfing, and this absolutely shattered my beliefs. So Unscripted kind of confirmed some of my suspicions. I kind of had a suspicion that there was more to life than working a 9-to-5 job. I had a suspicion that since there are millionaires in the world, I had a suspicion that anyone could be a millionaire. Like anyone can make $1 million. Anyone can be free from the system and actually have the system work for them. But transurfing absolutely destroyed my worldview. It absolutely shattered everything for me. So transurfing exposed this idea of pendulums, and what pendulums are, they're basically whenever multiple people are thinking of the same thing, then a pendulum emerges. And if enough people are like feeding energy to it, and then enough people are attuned to that frequency, then what happens is the pendulum actually develops on its own and actually becomes its own individual unit, its own individual structure. And so when this happens and the pendulum picks up enough energy and it becomes powerful enough, it can actually control people. So some of the most powerful pendulums out there is the school system, Wall Street, the like workforce, jobs. Those are some of the most powerful pendulums. And since we're born into a world of pendulums, and what the pendulums do is once they get strong enough and powerful enough, they actually are able to like they're actually able to pick up adherence, so get people to think on its wavelength and then control it. And so the pendulums control the person, and then it instills thoughts and beliefs, and it shapes their mind, it shapes their worldview, it shapes everything that goes on in their mind to serve the pendulum. And we're born into this world destined to be great. We're already pretty much guaranteed greatness as long as we don't like screw it up ourselves, or as long as we don't get picked up by a pendulum. And we're born into this world by we're individual souls. We're all our own people. And so when you are picked up by a pendulum, you actually lose your individuality, and then you lose all of this you gain a common sense, and then you basically get to the point where you're just thinking what the pendulum needs you to think. So it teaches you everything to think. And this is evident in the school system, in the workforce, in the jail system, prison system, anything. Like, one of the most powerful that I'm dealing with right now is the school system. Now let me explain. So I grew up in America, in just outside of Chicago, and I grew up going to school like a normal American, and basically this pendulum grabbed a hold of me, and I started to become an inherent. And so for my entire life, my thoughts were shaped and they were formed by this school system. And my mindset was shaped, and then it was kind of confined. It shrunk essentially, because the school system doesn't benefit from people living their own lives, living individually free, living to their fullest potential. The school system benefits from cogs in the machine, people who are going to feed energy to it and do the work. And this school system basically teaches to be a cog in a machine, and what that looks like is to work a 9-to-5 job. Pretty much, that's it. Work a 9-to-5 job. Like, that's why most people go to college and then get a degree just so they can get a job. So this is one of the most dangerous pendulums that I'm facing right now, because I'm a senior. And actually, over the past week, I missed this whole week of school. It's Saturday today, and I missed the past week of school because I went to this business conference called Funnel Hacking Live. And I'm going to be honest, it absolutely revolutionized everything. It gave me a lot of clarity. I was really already suspicious on what to do. I already had my suspicions on how to move forward. And what this conference did was it basically confirmed everything for me, and basically confirmed my suspicions. And now all of the things that I was already kind of doing and already suspected, for example, I suspected that mindset and worldview was big, very important for becoming successful. I suspected that even like tactical things that I was doing, like working on a podcast, was important. All of these things were confirmed. Every single thing was confirmed. You have to have the right mindset. You have to have the right worldview, the right attitude. You have to be doing the right strategies according to your own beliefs, your own path. So my strategies, my tactics that I'm doing right now are going to be different. They may be similar, but they're going to be different from person to person. So that's why you have some people doing just podcasts. You have some people not even on social media at all. They're just working on their own business or something like that. Everyone has their own path. And that's basically, when we come into this world, we're placed in this body. Our soul is placed in a body, and it's basically like a clean sheet, a blank canvas. And so what this blank canvas does, what happens is, whenever we perceive the world, and we can actually choose how we perceive the world. So what we choose to perceive the world as is what's written on our blank canvas. It's basically our worldview. And so naturally, we live in a world of pendulums. So these pendulums pick us up, grab a hold of our canvas, and take our hand and basically lead our hand to write certain things down. And what these things are narrow, restricted, confined worldviews that keep us placed. We're born. I was listening to Garrett J. Garrett J. White speak today on the fourth day of the event, the last day of the event. I just heard him speak like an hour ago. And what he said is that we're born into a system that is meant to keep you down. It's meant for you to lose in this system. You're born into a system where you're basically destined for failure, or not destined for failure, but you're born into a system where it basically, how do I word this? He worded it very well. I forgot what he said, but basically the system that we're in, like the entire system, the entire game is designed to prevent people from winning. It's designed to keep people in the losing bucket, keep people losing. And I was thinking, like last night, me and my friend Franklin we're both at this business conference together in Florida. Like we're both in Florida right now, Orlando, and I can actually see him on the other side of the golf course right now recording a YouTube short or TikTok in a tree. So that's awesome. But we're both here together, and basically what we're doing is we realized last night that our worldview is so important. And what we discovered was strategy over tactics. So we were talking about all of the big guys, Jeff Bezos, even Russell Brunson, Damon John, Grant Cardone. All of these guys know all the strategies. They know their strategy, but they don't necessarily know the tactics. They don't know how to post a podcast. They don't know what their merchant account is. They don't know any of these tactic things. They don't know how to create a funnel builder, they know how to create a funnel, but they don't know how. And what that means is they know like the strategy behind it, but they don't necessarily know like how to actually go about to create it. The tactical part. They don't know how to get onto the website. They don't know how to actually use the website. Like this is all stuff that they do because they basically, what I realize is that the big entrepreneurs, the big business owners are the ones who are masters of the strategies. And then what they do is, since they're masters of the strategies and they don't know the tactics, they don't waste their time trying to learn the tactics. What they do is they actually hire people. They hire a team. So all of the big guys have a team, and they hire an entire team to do the tactics for them. So what they do is they basically just know the strategies, and then they tell the team what to do, like the strategy behind it, and then the team goes in and implements it. So I'm kind of getting off topic, but that's like strategies over tactics. That's what I've learned. And also I want to talk about worldview, mindset. So for some background knowledge, I have been on self-improvement. I've been working on my health for all of high school. So the past like 3 years. I'm a senior. I started in freshman year. And then I think I started in sophomore year, but it doesn't really matter when I started. So I've been focusing on health for pretty much all of high school. And then I started lifting 2 years ago. And then I started reading 1 year ago. And then the books that I was reading were Breath, The New Science of a Lost Art, The Oxygen Advantage, The China Study, like all of these health related books, like all the things to increase my health, fitness, like all of this stuff. And I got to the point where I'm like, okay, I know, like I have a basic idea of where to go forward. And I got to the point where I'm fairly confident I can get to a healthy state. I can become healthy and I can do all these things. And I was thinking, I kind of had this intuitive idea that the next step is my mindset. I didn't know about mindset. Like I didn't know much about mindset before, but I was thinking like, okay, I was working on my physical body, but what about like everything that goes on inside of my head? Like that was kind of what I was thinking at the time. And little did I know, little did I know how valuable that actually is, like more valuable than even working on health and fitness, in my opinion. And I'm just in the beginning, and I've realized that this is so valuable. And so what I did was I looked up mindset books on Google. And I don't really remember what the searches showed, but I just remember thinking like, yeah, I don't want to read any of these books. These don't seem that great. And then I kind of just gave up on looking for mindset books. So I went back into my like focusing on all of these like health, physical stuff. And then after a little bit, I was watching not TikTok. I was watching YouTube Shorts at the time, and I stumbled upon this video, fan channel, Iman Gotzi's fan channel, someone's fan channel for Iman Gotzi, and it was like, there was probably like 10 likes on the video, so no one watched it. And the video was like 10 seconds long probably, and someone walked up to Iman Gotzi, interviewed him real quick, and asked, hey, you've suggested some books on this channel, but they're all pretty much introduction, they're all beginner type books. So what kind of more advanced books are you studying right now? What books are you studying right now? And so Iman Gotzi said reality transurfing, and then that's it. That was the video. And so I bought it. I went on Amazon and bought it. It was like $80. It was a pretty big investment considering I didn't even know what transurfing was. I didn't know anything about it, but something just told me to buy it. So I bought it. And then fast forward 6 months later, actually 7 months now probably, I have studied it. I've read it 2 times through. And what I learned in that book is that your mindset is actually the most important. Now, he didn't say this like directly, but pretty much the whole book was about how important your mindset is. And when you are thinking, you're actually creating your world. Just by thinking, you're creating the layer of your world. So I realized all this, and I was learning a lot about how to clean up my mind, and then how to like kind of structure my thinking in a certain way and follow certain principles and rules to get what I want and achieve my like goals and my result and like just the life that I desire. So that book basically lays out frameworks and principles to follow and adhere to. So I learned about all that stuff and I started implementing it. And I was like, yes, this is good. This is exactly the book that I needed. In fact, if I could only read one book for the rest of my life, currently at this moment, the book that I would choose is Reality Transurfing by Vadim Zeland. And that's for a very good reason, because I really believe that it's a foundation. And let's go back to the pendulums. So, by the way, the pendulums is a concept I learned about on transurfing. So let's talk about how pendulums basically instill a worldview into you. And if you've never really took any account into it and like never really paid any attention to it, then sorry to tell you, but you probably have a worldview that is not benefiting you. And so let's talk about how basically I drew a picture today in my notebook. Right when I sat down at the event, I was basically recapping kind of one of the most important things I learned. So what I drew was just a square at the bottom of my page. And what that represented was the foundation. And then I just wrote the foundation. And then I said, and I was just writing like, what kind of books does the foundation lay out? Or like, what kind of books give you a foundation to your life? And so this picture was representing your life. Like on the side, I wrote a line and I said life. So this is basically your life. And I wanted to represent your life as kind of like a house or just whatever, like a building. So some people choose to build a small little shack. That's like the average. Average people, normal people build a small shack. And then other people just choose to build a massive castle or a mansion or whatever it may be. And that's greatness. That's like the 1%. That's all the top people. And so the first thing you do is to build a foundation. Now, automatically, the foundation is laid out for us. We're led by the hand from our childhood to go into the pendulums, to adhere to the pendulum rule, do as I do. And we're automatically kind of led by the hand of pendulums, and thoughts are instilled in us. And then what happens is the pendulums lay a foundation for us. Now, this is a very small, weak foundation, and it's actually a destructive foundation too. The only thing that you can really build on this foundation, in my opinion, is a shack. And that's what most people have. Most people's lives are akin to a shack because they have a weak foundation. And so what I drew next was I drew a castle. Like, I drew the outline of a castle on top of the foundation. And so, let's rewind. I want to say the two books that I wrote down that were kind of teaching about the foundation was Reality Transurfing and 10x is Easier Than 2x. Now, for kind of context, I just learned about that book, 10x is Easier Than 2x, yesterday, and I'll talk more about that in this episode later. And I haven't even read the book yet, so I'm not even 100% sure if it's really this great or if it's really supposed to be in this on this part of the picture. But from what I heard in the speech, I'll talk about this later in the episode, but right now I want to talk about the castle. So what I laid out is the castle is the strategy. So strategy books are books like Expert Secrets, .com Secrets, like all general strategies for business, life, and it would be like a general strategy would be lifting, push, pull legs, and then the tactics would be like lift 3x12 reps, with dumbbells at this certain degree, like that's the tactics. And and then I drew one more thing. So then I drew kind of like vines, and I tried to decorate the castle. And then I labeled the vines tactics. So let's recap. The foundation is worldview, mindset. The castle is strategy. And then the vines, the decoration, the paint on the castle, all the decoration is tactics. So again, I just wrote this picture. I kind of came up with this picture and outline today, like 5 hours ago. And then I want to talk about the book that I'm reading, or the book that I'm going to start reading. I actually started this morning. I only read a paragraph because I had like 5 minutes. But the next book I'm reading is going to be called 10x is Easier Than 2x. So before I say this, I want to kind of give you, bring back up what I said about transurfing. So what I want to talk about the foundation as well. So what I like to think is, when we're born into a world of pendulums, and these pendulums kind of lay out a foundation for us. And so this foundation is only sufficient for a shack. So if you want your life to be a shack, then don't even worry about it. Just keep that foundation and build your life on top of it. And if you want your life to be better, then you have to dig out that foundation and then fill it in with something else. So what I like to think of Transurfing, that book, is basically you digging out that foundation and starting to fill the pavement. And then just Transurfing alone can give you probably the strongest foundation you've ever had you can ever achieve. But you have to really become proficient and an expert at the principles in transurfing, which I've read the 750-page book 2 times, and I say I'm still a beginner. I have gotten a lot of results, and a lot of my life has absolutely changed because of it. But I don't think that with just 2, I don't have a strong enough foundation. So, and then I also realized that there's like a missing piece. I was it was brought to my attention yesterday when Benjamin Hardy, the co-author of the book 10x is easier than 2x, he came to speak yesterday, and I realized that there was a whole nother part of this mindset. So basically I see Transurfing as a worldview, and then 10x is easier than 2x as a mindset. And basically both of those things, the worldview and the mindset, go on in your mind, in your head, go on in your head. But what I see the 10x is easier than 2x as a mindset because it basically preaches that most people follow the 2x rule. Most people, when they're trying to improve, me included, up to yesterday, kind of structure or lead their thoughts in the direction of the past. They kind of, I don't really know how to explain it because I haven't read the book yet, and I just heard the presentation. And to be honest, when the quote, if you hear something, you forget it. If you see something, you remember it. If you do something, you understand it. That quote is so true because I heard this presentation. I was taking a lot of notes, but I forgot a lot of it. And so I have to either go back and read my notes or read the book. And I'm choosing to do both. But I haven't done it yet. And so forgive me because I'm a beginner at this. But pretty much most people, and I want to bring up to your attention this one quote of, if most people are doing it, then you should probably not do it. Or if most people are doing it, then it will lead you to the path of most. If most people are living, their lives are a shack. So if you want more, don't listen to most. Don't do what most do. So what I came to realize, me included, yesterday, Benjamin Hardy brought to my attention that most people are structuring their thinking in marginal improvements, and they're structuring their thinking in such a way that they're kind of focused on the past or focused on comparing themselves to the past, which I have done because a lot of my episodes, if you've listened, I'm basically always bringing back up my growth, which I think is fine right now. But I need to read this book. That's why. And so I'll be reading it over the next week or two. I don't know how long it'll take, but the next thing is what you're supposed to do, what the 10x do, what the 1% do, is they focus on the future. They basically frame their present based on their future. And what they do is they picture themselves having an impossible goal. Their future is impossible. And so what happens is they have an impossible goal, and now they have to frame all of their current decisions, actions, attitudes, habits, all of these things. They have to frame this according to this future goal. So they end up making a lot. They kind of filter out all the junk and only receive the new and the good. And so that's why 10x is easier than 2x. And that's the next piece of the mindset that I was missing. And I'm sure there's more, but right now, this is the next piece of the mindset. So I see, going back to the foundation metaphor, I see pendulums as filling in the foundation for us. Transurfing is getting rid of the foundation and starting to fill it in. And then 10x is easier than 2x is filling it in more and polishing it and applying a strengthening unit to it. And also, I realized that, let's kind of recap. So pretty much we're in a game of life, and we're taught certain worldview to keep us down. And there's a worldview called Transurfing, and then there's a mindset called 10x is easier than 2x that basically teaches you how to become a 1%, because anyone can be a 1%. A quote by Vadim Zeland is, "The chosen ones choose themselves." And that basically says that anyone can be a millionaire, anyone can be a billionaire. All the billionaires of the world chose themselves. And today, listening to all the speakers, or actually over the past week, listening to all the speakers, I realized that everyone had their struggles. Everyone has that voice in their head holding them back. Everyone. even the successful people. And everyone has their downfalls, pitfalls, everything. And so it's just those who choose to ignore the voice in their head and take action anyways. One of the terms that I learned yesterday is called just giver. And it basically means to do it anyways, take action anyways. And I forgot the guy's name, but he wrote a book called Just Giver. And he basically came to talk yesterday and he talked about the just giver. So that was awesome. That's why right now I'm just focusing on worldview, because I feel like the foundation is extremely important. Like, you wouldn't build a house without building a strong foundation. You wouldn't build your life without having a strong foundation to it, which is your worldview. Your worldview is the foundation to your life. So that's why I'm really focusing. I'm really dialing in on worldview, mindset, all of this stuff. It's the foundation to building an amazing life that you want. And with that said, I still want to take action on my business because, one, it's action taken on the business, so I'm moving forward to my goals, but also it gives me a very unique and excellent opportunity to strengthen my knowledge by teaching exactly what I'm learning in real time. So if I hadn't started this podcast, I would not have had as much success or understanding as I have now from reading my books. Like, if I didn't start this podcast, I still would be learning. I still would be learning about stuff on the books, but I wouldn't have nearly as much understanding, because when you teach something, you strengthen your own understanding. So with that said, that is extremely important to understand. So that's why I'm recording on the podcast. Plus, it's a very good self-improvement act. Like, it's a very good thing to do for self-improvement. Because if you go back to my first episode, which, fun fact, it's not even my first episode, it's my 15th episode. But if you go back to that episode and listen to it, you'll know the difference. Like, I grew so much as a person, not only in self-improvement, but also in my speaking and my confidence. Like, on my first episode, I also talked about this yesterday, and I had a similar experience yesterday as I have today. But on my first episode, I was kind of embarrassed. I was ashamed, and I was like whispering into my microphone because I didn't want my family to hear. And I was in my basement. I still am in my basement, not today or yesterday or the past week, but I'm like, when I go home, I will be in my basement again. It's just the place I record. It's distraction free. It's my environment. But the thing is that podcasting, I haven't gotten any monetary benefits, and I understood that. It was going to take, Russell Brunson said, if you post on your show daily for an entire year, you'll never have to worry about money again. So I went in it with the mindset that it's not going to be instant. It may take a year, and that's okay. But one thing I didn't realize, I kind of understood that it's good to find your voice, but I didn't realize how valuable that is in your life. Because I'm standing actually with a microphone attached to a MacBook in the middle of a golf course, and I'm shirtless. I'm not wearing a shirt or shoes or socks. And I'm just walking around, pacing around my notebook. Or not notebook, my friend's computer, actually. I'm pacing around this, making weird hand signals, just kind of like leaning forward, leaning back, doing weird things. I probably look like an absolute idiot. And there's probably been like 20 people, 30 people, 50 people walk by me, not even counting the cars driving by, which I don't even think they can see me, but it doesn't matter. Like, I've made eye contact with probably at least 15 people over the course of this episode, which I am actually like not even 35 minutes into. And I've made eye contact with many people. Some people have stared at me. Some people are staring at me. And the thing is, if you took me 70 days ago, I would not have ever done this. I would have folded under pressure. I wouldn't have even attempted to record in public. But now I'm able to make eye contact with people while I'm recording, while I'm speaking, while I'm shirtless, and make eye contact with them and not be fazed. Now, there are moments when I do lose my focus because I am like, it's just a distraction. It's not necessarily me being ashamed or embarrassed. It's just a distraction when people walk by, which I understand because I'm in public. So it is my fault that I'm in this situation. But this is the best spot to record that I've found so far, because everywhere, like, there's 5,000 people at this event. So people are walking the halls. So like you can't really escape from people. And so I just went to the most isolated place, which I discovered today was on the opposite end of the golf course in this like tree area. So, and I actually almost got kicked off yesterday I got kicked off of the golf course in the first half. Like the first 8 minutes I recorded in the golf course, and then I paused it. If you go back on the video, you might be able to hear the cut, but I paused it and then I got kicked off and I had to move over, but I started recording. I was 45 seconds in to this episode. And then I actually, another guy in the golf cart rode up to me and almost kicked me out as well, but I paused it. And then he said, like, I'll tell you what, I'll let you be here. So that's pretty much, I don't even know what I went on that tangent for, but that's like what happened. So I ended up deleting that first 45 seconds because it was only 45 seconds. So I just restarted. But going back to the worldview, I'm realizing that there are kind of two types of speakers. Well, there's more types of speakers, but Russell set up the Funnel Hacking Live event in such a way where we would both be able to learn, but also get inspiration and motivation. And some people, all right, so there was kind of like a strategy / tactical kind of speaker. And then there were other speakers that were purely just for motivation and inspiration. And that was evident today, especially because both the speakers that came up, Garrett J. White and what's his name? Ben Kajal? Ben Ben something. I forgot his last name. Or Ben Call, I don't know. They were both motivational speakers. They were just telling their story and like pretty much getting us to get motivated and all that. But what I realized is that the motivational speakers are actually the ones we need to be listening to, because yes, the strategies / tactical speakers are important to listen to. Like, for example, on the first day or the second day, the first day, the tactical / strategy speaker spoke about shorts and posting on social media and all that stuff, which was I'm very grateful that I listened to that, because it confirmed my suspicions. Like, I was already headed that path anyways, but it confirmed my suspicions on that's the right path forward. So it's important. But the real important, like, you can get away with not knowing the strategies for now. But what you need to know is you need to know the inspirational concepts, the concepts that all the motivational speakers, all the life coaches are teaching. And that's basically summed up is to take action. Start now. But there's a lot of different kind of frameworks that other motivational speakers gave, like Just Giver. That guy was more of a tactical / strategy speaker, but he actually sprinkled in some motivation and created a word called Just Giver, and it basically says take action. And then another person, Jocko Willink, is all about extreme ownership and leadership and all that stuff, which is basically taking action, because your extreme ownership is, I'm in charge. Like, I am the reason why I have this life. Like, I chose this life and I'm going to take ownership of it. So I'm going to take action now. Like, all of the things kind of sum up from one thing, is taking action. And that's another thing. Like, right now I'm only 18 years old. So I'm in the beginning of my life. And going back to the metaphor, right now I'm at the beginning of life, so it makes sense to create a very strong foundation. That's why I'm focusing so hard on mindset, because I'm sure once I have the mindset, it'll shift and I won't really care too much about the motivational speakers. And I did see this. Like I saw some older people leave during the motivational speakers and then come back during the strategies, because for them, they already have the mindset. They already have the worldview that they need for their life. They already have the foundation strong enough, big enough, wide enough for the life that they want, the castle they want to build on top of it. And so at that point, strategies are important to know. Like you need to know the strategies now. So that's why I feel like in order to go out throughout your life, you need to follow the same order that you would follow to build a castle. If you want greatness in your life, build your life in the same order you would build a castle. If you want average mediocrity in your life, go about you're building your life in the same order you would build a shack. And that order is, first you lay out the foundation, which is your worldview, your mindset, your attitude towards life, how you perceive the world, like all that stuff, everything that goes on in your mind. That's the foundation. And then you start to build up the structure, the actual castle building, and it starts to take form. That's the strategies. That's what to do. That's all that stuff. And then you start to decorate it. And you learn how to decorate it. That's the tactics. You start putting paint on. You start adding in windows. You start adding in plants, house plants, vines, a garden, pool, all that stuff. That is how you should go about with building your life. You place the foundation, worldview, build the building, strategies, decorate the building, tactics. And then what you could do, actually, what most high successful people do, is they build a foundation. They spend a lot of time building the foundation. And then what they do is they learn how to build the strategy. They learn how to build the building. They learn all the strategies. And then they just outsource the decoration. They have other people decorate for them. And that's how they build their entire life. And I've been studying books for a year. I've only been studying worldview, getting into this actual important stuff. Don't get me wrong, breathing, health, diet, all this stuff is important, massively important. I still focus on it every day. But the real big game changers are your mindset, worldview. And so I've only been focusing on this stuff for the past 6 months. And I didn't really dial in on it until probably 4 months ago, 5 months ago, 3 months ago. Didn't really dial in on it until recently. So I'm only 6 months into my foundation, and I definitely plan on learning more. That's why I'm going to read the 10X is Easier Than 2X, because that's a massively important book. It's extremely important. It teaches exactly how ultra successful entrepreneurs, ultra successful business leaders, businessmen, businesswomen are all their mindsets. Steve Jobs, he absolutely revolutionized the way we communicate with each other, the way we access the internet, the way we use, he revolutionized the telephone industry, the phone, all that stuff. He started he didn't start the smartphone industry, but he basically started. Wait, did he start the smartphone industry? I think I don't even know. Doesn't matter. But pretty much, he didn't make smart goals. What Ben Hardy talked about was smart goals are holding you back. Just the other day, I was in a business incubator class, which is great, but we had to learn a SMART goal. We had to do a SMART goal, set a SMART goal. And I didn't realize how damaging that is for your mindset, your worldview, for your life, until I heard Ben Hardy speak. Because when you try and marginally increase your health or marginally increase your testosterone levels, like my friend was talking about literally this morning, we were talking about 10X is easier than 2X. And when he said he was trying to increase his testosterone levels by 10%. And what he was doing was he would deep dive on like Reddit, on forums, like all of these things. He would learn some extremely esoteric, extremely niche things. Like he said something extremely scientific to me. He speaks in a lot of scientific terms that I don't even understand, but pretty much he, like, for example, one thing that he's doing is like, he's got like 8 supplements, which I think they're good. That's a bad example. I don't even know. Carrots. There was one really interesting thing that he was doing that was marginally increasing his testosterone. So that it doesn't matter what he was doing. The point of the matter is he spent lots of time and effort researching how to increase his testosterone by 10%. He wasn't really conscious, or he wasn't like saying, oh, how do I increase my testosterone 10%? He was like, okay, I want to increase my testosterone a lot. How do I do it? And then he went about looking for certain like things to do. He went about looking for little strategies, tactics to do, and he went into a niche thing. So pretty much the point is that he said, I was spending all this time learning how to 10% increase my testosterone when I was literally sleeping like 6 hours a night. Like my foundation, the entire foundation of my health, my sleep, I was just ignoring. And I was just focusing on these tiny little 10% improvements, which were helping. But if I were to have just improved my sleep, now I'm not sure if improving your sleep increases your test, or I'm sure it may, because sleep is the foundation of health. Like I learned that in the Why We Sleep book. Sleep is massively important, the most important piece of your health. And he was like, his sleep was terrible, and it still is terrible. But he realized now, after listening to the 10X, we have to be filtering out, like, is this going to 10% improve me? Or is this going to 10X me? Is this going to multiply myself by 2 times? Or 10 times? Or 100 times? Or 1,000 times? And one great story that Benjamin Hardy told yesterday, which I'm going to retell, is he's got a son who he's a very good tennis player. And he was talking to his tennis coach, and the coach was like, so what are you going to do? Are you going to, like, what's your goals on tennis? And for context, they live in Florida, and Florida is like one of the best tennis states out there. And so he is like amongst a lot of competition, and there's a lot of tennis players, amazing, great tennis players in Florida. And so Benjamin Hardy's son responded to his coach saying, I want to go to college. And then his coach, and then that was it. That was his goal. And then Ben Hardy talked to his son about that conversation a little bit while later and asked, like, well, do you think you can get to college? And his son responded, I don't know. I'm not sure. And then Ben Hardy was like, well, do you want to go pro? And then his son was like, yeah, that'd be cool. And then Ben Hardy said, well, do you think you're going to go pro? And his son said no. And that's because there are so many paths to get to college level. Like, that was his goal, college level. But his real goal was pro. But he was just focusing on college level because that is kind of like the smart goal, the realistic, and I say realistic with quotes, like not quotes, but bunny ears. That's kind of like the realistic goal, the smart goal that he set for himself to go college. And that's what society teaches us. Back to the pendulum. Society teaches us to set smart goals because they're achievable or realistic. And I say these all with bunny ears. And that's another way that society keeps us down, keeps us conditioned to stay trapped in the box. And so Benjamin Hardy's son, or no, Ben Hardy yesterday when he was telling the story, he took out a whiteboard and started drawing, and he drew like 20 arrows. All right, so he drew 3 lines on top of each other. On the bottom line was where you are now. On the middle line was college level, and then the top line was professional. And so he pretty much drew like 20 lines going up to the college level. So these represent all the different paths to get to college. So there are a lot of different paths to take to get to the professional level. But then he only drew, like, again, there was 20 paths to get to college level, when in reality there's like thousands, a lot of different paths to get to college level, and a lot of different coaches to get to college level as well. So you can pretty much randomly take any coach and you'll be able to get to college level and any path. And then, but there's only like 1 or 2 lines that he drew that extended all the way up to the professional level. So there's only like a specific way, 1 or 2 ways to get to pro, or 1 or 2 coaches that can actually get you professional level. And so when he told his son that, he was like, are you on the right path to go pro? And the son was like, no. And so pretty much now, I don't know how the story turned out. I forgot if he even said it, but I assume the son is now going to choose the right coach that can get him to professional level, and he'll want to achieve the college level, but he's got a real big goal now. So now he's filtering all of his actions through the big, massive, seemingly impossible goal, because that's like the whole point of the 10x is easier than 2x, from what I could understand, is if you filter all your decisions through realistic, and I say that with bunny ears again, realistic goals, then you're kind of just going to marginally improve, and your vision is kind of like going to take in everything. Your filter, the way you see the world, your filter, all the information you filter in, you're going to take in like those 20 different paths, like all the different paths to get to college level. But what you need to be doing is you got to set that massive, impossible seeming goal, and then that will make you filter all of the things, and you'll realize, oh, these 20 paths, they all suck. Only 3 of them are good. Only 3 of them can actually get me to where I need to go. So now you filter a very specific small amount, because he also talks about the 80-20 rule. 80% of the action, so this is the 2x mindset, the mindset of taking the 20 paths to get to college. 80% of your actions are comfortable, old, like you're good at them, and only 20% are new, that are getting you to the next level. So that is like 80% of the paths possible are gonna get you to where you want, but only 20% are gonna get you further. And then the opposite. So if you reverse it, you have the 10x mindset. If you're only doing 20% of your daily actions as what you're comfortable with, what's natural, or not natural, but what is like comfortable, easy, you've done for a while, you're used to, and then 80% are brand new, because you're filtering out all of that, like you're filtering out all of the stuff now. So now you've only dialed in on the new stuff. So now you're just focused on the new. With the 2x mindset, you're focused on the like old mostly. So that's like the 10x and the 2x mindset. And that, I hope you guys can see why I'm so excited about this stuff. I'm so looking forward to this. I'm really looking forward to like learning about this stuff. That's why foundation is extremely important, because I'm taking action. So I'm like, the way I see it is I'm pretty much guaranteed success. Like I'm guaranteed success. It's not a matter of whether I'm going to be successful or not. It's a matter of when will it happen? Like as long as I stay on this current path of podcasting every day. And just recently I added in posting 3 TikToks, YouTube shorts, like 3 TikToks every day, to like kind of expand my reach and get more people to follow me and get a bigger audience and possibly get people to listen to the podcast more. as long as I keep doing this every day, I'm guaranteed success. So now that I have success in the bag, I'm guaranteed success just by these small things. Just focusing on these things, since I don't know my path forward. Like, they're all talking about building the linchpin model out through your business, like building product, service, challenge webinar, free webinar, like all of these things, all these strategies for business. I'm not worried about them. I'm just focusing on one thing. And that's what you guys need to do. You need to start taking action. I started taking action and working on the podcast. I focused on one thing. Only podcast. And then once I got positive feedback loop on my podcast, I went on to TikToks, YouTube Shorts, all this stuff. And again, it took me 70 days to get to the YouTube Shorts, TikToks. And I was recording for the first week, but then I realized I needed to just focus on podcasts because you have to focus on one thing. And then once you're at the point where you know that you're guaranteed success, it may take a year, it may take 1 week. I don't know. It took me personally 70 days. I did have the mindset that I was guaranteed success, but I didn't really believe it until recently when I got to Funnel Hacking Live. Now I believe it. Like I said earlier, I had suspicions that podcasting every day was important and valuable. That's why I was doing it, but I didn't know yet. And so Funnel Hacking Live confirmed my suspicions. I was hearing from people who are on the path just a couple years ahead of me, and they're saying, yes, this is exactly, they're shining light on the path ahead of me. They're saying this is exactly what you need to do. So that is why now I'm at the positive feedback loop. I'm pretty much guaranteed success. I'm only focusing business-wise on podcasting and YouTube Shorts. I'm only focusing on content creation. So now I'm only focused. Now that I have all that guaranteed, all that stuff, push it to the side. I'm doing that anyways. I'm doing that by default every single day. So now I can start. I have been doing this, but now I can focus 100% on my foundation. I'm building up my business, but now I'm going to focus on my foundation, my mindset, my worldview, because that's how you explode your growth. Because you need to start destroying your worldview, because your world, you can actually tell how valuable your worldview is to you, or you can actually tell how good your worldview is simply by taking a look at your life. If your life is crappy and you hate it, well, then you need to improve your worldview, because your worldview is obviously terrible. But if your world is amazing, then your worldview is going to be amazing as well. And fun fact, the worldview actually starts and then causes the life. But it takes a little while. It's the mirror principle of transurfing is it takes a little bit while to reflect back the worldview. It takes a delay. There's a delay. So fix your worldview, and then your life will reflect that. So that's why I'm focusing on my guarantees. I'm guaranteed success as long as I keep doing podcasting. So that's guaranteed. I have a positive feedback loop formed with podcasting. I'm not going to stop. Now what I have to do is figure out how to improve my mindset, which is what I've been doing for the past 6 months. I have to figure out how I can improve my mindset, improve and learn and implement this 10x is easier than 2x. Learn and implement this 10x mindset mentality so I can explode my growth. I hope you guys are getting what I'm saying, because this is extremely important. I really wish that I listened to this episode 1 year ago. I really wish that I had access to this episode, because this is exactly how you be successful. This may sound motivational, inspirational. No. I'm telling you exactly what you do. And I learned all this from the inspirational speakers. There's this amazing thing that in transurfing, it's called being detached from the game. It's kind of being awake, being consciously present. And so when I was listening to these speakers, at times I was immersed, I'll be honest. And at other times I was awake and I was kind of looking at it from a wider lens. And I was realizing these guys are exactly if there's anything you take away from the entire Funnel Hacking Live event, it should be the concepts that the inspirational speakers talk about, because those are the important things that actually get you forward. Those are the things that actually dramatically revolutionize the way you look at life and the way you experience life. And as a result, your life will be amazing. Man, I still have 30 seconds left, but that would have been an amazing way to just end the video. But as you guys can see, I'm getting a lot better at this every single day. I'm only on episode 73 or 74. I'm only on episode 74. And I don't know how many people are listening to this, but once I get actually really good, like by the time people start listening, I'll actually be way better. So if you guys want to keep following my journey, follow for more, subscribe. And I'll be telling you exactly what I'm doing. And I'll be documenting, mapping out my entire journey in real time of business entrepreneurship. And with that said, let's wrap up the episode. So don't forget to download your favorite episodes and subscribe to the Ascend Momentum Show. But before you guys leave, make sure to remember the Eagles.